The history of Fernleigh Lodge began in the 1920s. John Charles R. owned a cottage near Kashwakamak Lake. John and his wife Gert were from Buffalo, New York. John was an outdoorsman who enjoyed fishing and hunting. He dreamed that one day he would open a fly-in fishing camp. The dream became a reality when his cottage neighbor, Irvin Smith, offered farmland for sale adjacent to his cottage. It was the perfect location for the fishing camp. Around 1930, John and Gert began to employ residents to help construct the main lodge, kitchen, staff quarters, and cabins numbered 1 to 8. Everything was built by hand. The logs were cut, floated down the lake, and assembled to make the buildings. John was a pilot who had his own float plane. Imagine what it was like to arrive at Kashwakamak Lake by float plane in the 1930s. Incidentally, John's plane is on display in a museum in London, England, but that's another story. The original lodge register shows that most of the guests came from Buffalo and the surrounding area. A rumor circulated that Al Capone was a guest. Truth or fiction? If guests decided to drive to the lodge from the States, they would find a grueling drive on a one-lane dirt road as they approached today's Road 506. Their first summer in 1933 was a success, enabling further development of the manor over the following winter. The increased popularity allowed for the expansion of the kitchen and the building of the Chemung cabins during the winter of 1936 to 1937. Fernleigh Lodge was a men's fishing camp. Women were not allowed until the 1940s. A staff of 18, both men and women, was established. John was interested in building the tourism business in the area with fellow lodge owners. In 1943, he was a founding member of a group that later became known as the Land O'Lakes Tourist Association. He served as president from 1946 to 1951 and worked collectively with other tourism operators to attract visitors. Fernleigh Lodge expanded further in the 1950s with the addition of more cottages. At that time, the wages for the staff was $1.75 per day. Guests paid $15 per week for their stay, including meals. Supposedly, male staff and guests wore shirts and ties even when they were guiding, although we have no photos as evidence of this. In later years, workwear was more casual. The guides helped the guests find the best spots for fishing and then provided a shore lunch on an island over an open fire. Fernleigh Lodge was the first lodge on the lake to have a motorboat. The 2-horsepower gas boat pulled all of the other manual-powered fishing boats up the lake and then let them drift back. With all the terrific fishing on the lake and in many neighboring lakes, it was not uncommon for lodge owners to have camps and boats on other lakes. Fernleigh Lodge operated camps at Bruley and Fortune Lake with boats on many lakes in the region, offering guests a wide variety of fishing. At one time, the lodge provided fishing boats for guests on 14 different lakes. Guests were asked not to pull wooden boats to shore after fishing, otherwise the following user would have a leaky boat. This fishing directory names the 14 lakes with boats and the number of boats available per lake. A total of 35 boats provided guests unlimited fishing opportunities. For years, chickens and pigs were raised at the lodge, providing fresh poultry and pork for the dining room. Gert performed culinary magic in the dining room and became well known for her excellent meals and a spotless kitchen that ran like clockwork. The lodge provided light with oil lamps. These were retired in 1945 when a Delco generator from the military was given to the lodge. allowing Fernleigh Lodge to be the first on the lake to have electricity. Hydroelectric power entered the region in 1948, allowing for even more expansion in the next several months. In 1964, John R. died. He and Gert operated the lodge for 31 years. Gert continued running the lodge and upgraded the cabin's indoor plumbing, replacing the need for outhouses beginning in 1968 until she died in 1974. Her grandson, John R. Green, and his sister Holly continued running the lodge until the mid-1970s. The strength of the lodge has always been the quality of the staff. In the 1970s, a complimentary handbook was created that highlighted many of the key staff. In the late 1970s, John Petruzzi purchased the property and operated the lodge for 2 seasons. The lodge went back to John Green, who ran it with Holly until John was killed in a plane crash, and then Holly ran it alone. Buildings and bridges to the point were added. Lastly, a tennis court was added in 1975. Art and Lois Parker and their son Kevin had been coming to Fernleigh Lodge from Ohio for several years. When the lodge was for sale, the Parkers purchased it in 1981.
I stayed home, so to speak, and helped with the business back home while they were opening this, and then I would come up, 2 times a week, 3 times a week, or a month, bring them stuff when they needed stuff, and help out, and then go back and help to keep the business going back home. Well, there were no kitchens. 2 cabins may have had kitchens. Bathrooms, we put the bathrooms on, my dad and I helped do those because we put a toilet in the cabins, the little log cabin with a sink with cold water only. That's all there was. And you got your meal, that's why they called it the American plan. Because you've got breakfast, lunch, and dinner, full service, linens, everything, and fish. That's pretty much what this place was about. In the fall time, John R. did a lot of hunting, which they didn't really promote a lot of because I think he had enough what he wanted to do, right? They also had, when Mom, Dad, and I, the family purchased it, let's put it that way, we had an option of buying a lot of other pieces of property which John R. had owned. We just couldn't afford them all. Fortune Lake had one, Bruley Lake had one, Malcolm Lake had a small spot. There was, I believe, up until the 90s, middle 90s, I had boats on 9 lakes still, that I took out people guiding all the time. So those were that's kind of roughing it. That was it, basically. To the current date, central air, Wi-Fi, 2 bathrooms in your cottage, sleeps 8 to 10. It's pretty much not roughing it, as far as I'm concerned.
Sadly, Art Parker died in 1996. Kevin and his mother continued to run the lodge until she died in 2004. Kevin and I and our son Owen are the current owner-operators and maintain the professional service and food that has made Fernleigh Lodge a thriving business since 1931. The fly-in fishing camp of the 1930s has been transformed. Today, Fernleigh Lodge is much more than fishing. It's a full-service family resort.